Hi, Joe here at Willie Cottage. I know it's been a while, I do apologise. If you just caught my live chat last week, the house has been bedlam. We've had a lot of work going on, so hence the reason as to why I've not been putting many videos up for the last, I think 4, maybe 5 weeks. I've just haven't had the time. The house has been in chaos and it's been filthy with dust and it's just not been practical. So I am back. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get back to my normal routine of videos, so bear with me. So we are doing, you're like, Joe, have you done it? Have you? Yes, it's finished. The weaving has been done. It is finished. We are now down to the final stages before Wednesday's live chat, when I shall start cutting out with fabric, and then what I will do is I will film the rest of the fabric cutting and the finishing of the edges and how I do it, and I will give you alternative ways that you can do it to make sure that your fabric doesn't fray. So anyway, hemming. Now obviously you start off your hemming and you leave yourself a tail end and everything else, but sometimes you forget to leave a tail end at the end, because really you can't. So I thought this is an ideal way so that you can use this at the beginning or at the end of how to get started if you have to use a fresh piece of hemming yarn. So there are a few videos out there. That Kaale Casanova is the one that I would say go and root rely. It's who I learned my basics for weaving from. I'm self-taught on everything that I do, everything from making my bats, dyeing my own wools, carding wools, washing wools, alpacas and all sorts of things. Everything I do, I'm self-taught, hand spinning, felting, everything, all thanks to YouTube. Yeah, there is no classes or groups or guilds where I live unless I've got a car and can travel a couple of hours to the nearest guilds, which is one's in Scotland and the other one's in Lancaster, I think it is. There are a couple of weaving groups around here, but again, I've got to travel to get to them, and it's not practical when you don't drive. So what I'm going to do is I'll tilt you down and you can see how I get started, and I will explain as I go, and then I'll pause this, restart it, and just fast forward the working of what I do. Then next we'll be putting it in the sink, and then we'll carry on from there, and I'll tell you what I'm doing next. Not much to this process. It's pretty simple. It's just a bit laborious and time consuming, and then once it's done and it's out on the line or wherever you want to put it, depending on your size of piece, then it's really not much else you can do. So okay, so I've tilted around so you can see from where I am at the beginning here. Okay, so what I do is I'll go in through this top thread here, because it's a new thread that I've got. I need to try and make sure it's hidden. So I'd come back down on myself about an inch through the sleeve edge end, leave that like that there, and then I'll come through here, and this will just anchor it in place, and then I'll come back up. Now when I'm measuring out how much thread I need for doing this section first, I just spread the yarn out the length 4 times to what I need. I'll just pull that a bit there. Look at this, loose. Yeah, there's nothing much I could do about that now anyway. And I've got a tail end there, but I'd run out of wool and I didn't want to fill up my bobbin again. So I literally want to take the first 4 warps. Okay. And then find my first 2. Sometimes you could go 3 and just find that in there. 2 wefts up, actually it's that one there, 2 wefts up, and then come back through the loop. Now this is just the beginning, and you'll end up finding your rhythm as you go along. It's always harder going in from the top when you're doing this, so I'm just tying that off there, and now I will come in, count my threads out. So that one's there, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There we go. So I'm coming up through here, counting my 3 wefts up and then coming back through here, okay, back through the 4 that I started with. And because my yarn's so long, I'm just going to wait till it catches up and then I thread that through. And then make sure it's nice and tight. It's not going to come loose, okay? Sometimes it's easier for me if I went in this way and counted my 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it that way. Come in from underneath. Make sure that's wrapped around. It is very hard. I say hard, tricky, trying to see what you're doing from the top end. So I'm just going to carry on doing it from in this direction so I can see exactly what it is that I'm doing. 1, 2, nope, that one's not one there. 3 and 4. So once again, I'm going to come up from behind. I've got 3 warp ends in here. Okay, I will change the camera angle in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Catch that loop, and make sure it's tight, and then come in again. So there's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Go up into that 3rd weft along, catch that loop. No, it's this one here. I need this one, not in there, in this one here. So it's in the next grouping along. Don't worry if it pulls. This will all settle down. You'll end up with, you may see a couple holes. All depends on how tight your weft and warp is. So I'm going to come in again, count my 4, come up behind it and go 3 up. Pull that along. Catch the loop. Make sure you just give it a gentle tug and that will keep that tight. And again, 4 along, 3 up. Catch the loop. No, I don't want to, that's not catching the loop, is it? Yeah, it is catching the loop. Coming behind there. Go across 4. I'm going to wrap the loop around there now because my yarn's getting a little bit shorter. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Catch that up there. Put my loop around my needle and pull it along. Okay, and again in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 3, which is that one there. Put that around my loop. Just give it a bit of a wiggle to tighten that tension up, and just keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 3 wefts. Wrap that around my loop. Just make sure you've got no baggy edges. At the end of the day, for me, it's not really important to have a really neat, tidy hem edge because I'm not going to see any of the hem edge. I'm not using it for a shawl. I'm using it as a fabric for a garment. So I'm really just doing this so that everything stays in place for when I wash it and then cut it out later on. So just loop that around this section, tighten that off a little bit so it's not so loose. Just give it a little pull if you have to, and then that's in there. So you might have seen I've just changed my direction. It was aggravating my hands, so instead of coming up from below like you would do if you were doing the just try to stretch out my yarn here, if you were doing your beginning hem, I'm coming in from the top, from the same 4 that I've just grouped together, and then coming back in through the bottom. Okay, then looping that around exactly the same, but just coming from a different direction. It just seems a little bit more fluid for me doing that. So there we go, 4 in there. So I've still got my 4 warps. Okay, I'm still coming in from the 3rd layer. I'm just going to wrap that around there, pull that along, straighten off my tension, or tighten off my tension a little. There we go. There we are. And it just seems a little bit more fluid coming in from the bottom of the warp than it did coming in from the top of the warp, from here into here. Just a little bit more comfortable. So I'm coming in from the top, coming in inside my warps. Sometimes you just have to fiddle about and remind yourself what the best way is to do it. So that's loosening off, and it shouldn't be, but just it'll hold its own as we go along. Just holding this back a bit so it doesn't get tangled up. There we go. Straight in, find my 4, pull that up. Now there are some really pretty ways to do these hems, which are really nice and lovely, like a crisscross. I think it's called a French hem or something like that. It's not something I do that often because I don't really do a lot of weaving, but I do make shawls now and again, and I feel more confident finishing the edging of a trim of a shawl, in the sense of tassels and just messing around and making sort of a nice lacy work on the ends of them. You can see how that is causing the loop big gaps in there. Don't worry about them too much, it will settle itself down. I'm just going to give it a little push back, and I will, before I cut the threads, give it a couple of whacks so it sort of comes back into the rest of the weave. So there's my 4 there. Go around on my thread, on my needle, and pinch that in place. Go back into where I've just grouped those. There's my 4 there. Backwards twist on the needle and just tighten that off. Again, through the top, backwards twist, pull my needle through, and then tighten. Okay. Okay, so now I'm at the very end, and I'm literally just going to do the exact same thing as what I've done at the beginning, but I'm going to do it a second time around for the hemming stitch, and then just make sure it's really, really tight, and then I'm going to thread this through the strands in between my wefts. Try and catch it as far to the end, or close to the end I should say, not far, close to the end as I possibly can, and bring them down, and that'll hopefully lock that in place. I'm going to come back up on myself and through a couple of these strands. Really fiddly when you've got a flaming big chunky needle, I'll tell you that for now. Right, so there we go, back through on itself, and that, once that's been washed, will hold, and it shouldn't, she says shouldn't come out. It never usually does. So I literally just snip that down to there, and that's all of this done. Next, the snippy, and guess I can only find little needles, so I'm just going to give this a little thwack all the way through. I'm just going to lean this forward, and I'm going to try and snip all the way through. And yeah, oh no, here's some needle scissors. I've got a big pair of scissors. There we go, big pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut from behind, I think. Cut the behind. All the way over. Oh, typical, I can't reach the last bit. Cut that there. Right, the next thing I do is I unclip my beam here, and there we have a fabric. So for me, now a lot of people leave either weaving the tail ends as they're going along. That's fine, each to their own, whatever makes you happy. I like to do mine at the end, and this is where I do what I call my product control, my standard of fibre, and I can check to see if there's any issues or flaws in there where I need to keep an eye out for a later date. So I'm just going to literally weave back in these tail ends with my darning needle. Just get them pulled through because they do this. Get that straight, pull that back through in itself. I'll leave that one where it is. Sometimes it's easier, especially if I've got a big silly needle like this. Can I find my actual needle that I need when I need it? Now this way I'm going to just go up and down through the wefts with this piece, and you can go any which way, but with your tail ends just remember to go in the opposite direction to which you had wove them in the first place, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So this fiddly flipping bit, so push that, pull that through, and I leave those little pieces until the end. Okay, so whichever way you want to go, it doesn't really matter. I just find if I've got two pieces together, I like to make sure that they go in the opposite directions to each other. Now this is a tail end, and this is a tail end. This piece is coming from this direction, so I've come in with a fresh piece of yarn to start on the next one, and it's going in that direction. This piece here is coming from this direction, so I've obviously started. This is the weft row here, right here. Okay, this has been my weft row, my brand new weft row, and I've finished the yarn when I've got coming from this side, come along, and I've run out. So from that point I've come back in, waited until the tail end has got about an inch away from this tail end, the old one for the new one, pull it through, and then I'm left with this. So this one is going in that direction. So if I want to put this in or this one in, I want to either decide to whether go back on itself so it knots in between. So if I was to just thread that out. I need to get my needle. I'll just put my needle in, it's easier. I am going to go from the warp thread before it, and then just wiggle my needle up and down in the opposite way to what it was originally. Okay, put that through in my little needle. I know you just can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm hoping that if you just listen to my instructions, it might be easier. So this one's going, it was originally coming in from this direction. I'm going to thread it back through in the same direction, but going through warps of difference, so not following the same weaving pattern as it was originally. This other piece, I'm going to go down through the warps, up and down, in and out. There we go. So I've got that one threaded through. I'll just thread this through my needle. I mean, you can do up and down with both of them. It's up to you what you want to do. At the end of the day, you just need to make sure that these tail ends are tucked away. There we go. Make sure that's sticking out, because once it's all been washed, I want to snip these. Because what you want to do is make sure that they're all caught and all relaxed together and the fibres all knot together. So I've got all of these to do, and I'm going to carry on with this, and I will get back to you in a minute. Okay, so I've finished threading all my tail ends back through. So you might be able to see what I've done is I've come from a downwards position but followed all these little wefts, so picking up the top wefts and screwing my needle underneath it so it looks like it's incorporated into the warp. There's another one there, so it comes all the way down from here and then comes down and lands out here. And it's the same on the rest of it as well. You can go, if you go crosswise, just make sure you follow the warp lines all the way through and catch, so you've got one on top, one underneath, one on top, one underneath, or sort of just follow the way that the pattern is if you've got a pattern in your weaving. Like I've got a little bit of a pattern in there, and then I've got a tabby, which is where this bit is here, and then another bit of a tabby weave in here as well. And this one here, you can see it's come from this section, you can see exactly where it's curved, and I've picked up the warp threads for the pattern and folded it down, and it just looks like a warp, or a weft pattern, the wefts, and folded it down so it looks like a warp. So now I'm going to take it off, and I think I will literally just get my scissors because it's so much easier than untying it all. This is where the dog will have a fit now because everything will start falling over the place. And it will go in the sink in a second once I've stopped fighting with it. There we go, all the way along. I will tidy up my loom later on and take off all, always one piece, take off all the scrag ends that are left on the loom. So I'll just cut that piece there, that one. Make sure I don't catch the cotton behind, because I recycle and reuse again at a later date. Right, that's that done. Oh, still got one hanging on for life. There we go, all on the floor. Of course it is. So that is what that looks like now. Now we're going to go to the sink. Okay, so you're currently looking at a sink full of delicate wash. Okay, just a splodge, about a teaspoon I've got in the sink. I've added a little bit of fabric conditioner in there as well because I just like the smell of it, and I like that it really softens the fabric, because I have got a wool blend here that's been plied with linen. So I've got two different factors to deal with, but I like the weight and I like the way that it hangs, hence the reason as to why I've used this fabric, Fibre. Excuse the dog, postman's obviously just been and he's just about chewed his hand off. Right, anyway, Iona, I do apologise, the dog, as everybody knows, the dog's a blinking nightmare. Right, so hand hot, so you're looking at 40 degrees hand hot. So hot enough for you to put your hand in without it hurting is all you need, okay? Even if you're using a superwash merino blend or a wool that you've woven, I mean, if you're using a manufactured wool that you've wove with, you can throw it in the washing machine on a quick spin cycle. It will do the exact same thing, i.e. A nylon wool, yarn, fibre or anything like that. That'll be fine to go quickly into the washing machine on a quick spin cycle if you really want to. If you're using a bowl because you've only got a small article like a scarf or something, then as I say, 40 degrees, all you need. And then I folded mine. You want to fold it up because it's so big, I just find it easier to fold it. So I'm literally going to just gently place it in my sink of water. I'm not going to agitate it or mess around with it at this stage. Okay, I am going to let it just sit in the sink and leave it in there for an hour. And I'm going to go upstairs and go and blend up some bats for listings on the website. And then when I come back down, that water will be tepid. So 40 degrees Celsius if you go with UK. I mean, look at that already, how soft that is compared to the rigidity that it was when I first put it in. So it's already softening. The process is already starting to work. All the fibres will start to relax. Look at that, relaxing already. It's just so much ease. It's a magic, the way that it just all of a sudden goes from a rigid fabric or a weave into this really soft, malleable fabric that's so much easier to work with. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that on there. So 40 degrees Celsius UK, and I'm thinking roughly in Fahrenheit, maybe in the 90s, somewhere along there. Yeah, around about the 90s. So hand hot. I will wash temperature 30 degrees to 40 degrees, but hand hot, where you could put it into the sink, and that's it. Leave it for an hour, let the heat do its job. When you come back to it, the water will be tepid. Then you want to take out the water, or put your fabric into a bowl of tepid water to do the rinse. You don't want it hot, because then you will start to do felting process. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. You will start then going into the felting process if you start putting more hot water into this afterwards. So let it just do its magic, leave it in peace, walk away from it, go find something else to do for an hour, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so that is my woven fabric, been drained, and then I still folded up the same way it has been, and I literally just give it a couple of thwacks in the sink just to help loosen up any fibres that could be in there. And at the same time, I'm just gonna move that top out of my way, sort of just thump it down. Oh, there's always a sponge tries to escape. Right, I don't want to overdo it, but it's just ever so gently give it a thwack, and any loose water that's in there will sort of drain out a little bit more. So I'm just going to go and put it out on the clothes horse outside in the garden, and you'll be able to see that the fibres have really closed up quite a fair bit. It has been rinsed off, and I'm just going to let it drip dry overnight, and then tomorrow, by the time you've watched this video, this will be, fingers crossed, dried. Okay, so there you go, it's out on the clothes horse. I've just given it an extra squeeze. Don't wring the fabric, just give it a squeeze, and any overspill that you've not managed to get out will obviously come out, and you can see how much more that's closed in together. There's not really any open gaps as such, not as much as what there was while it was still in the loom, but it's definitely relaxed a lot more. Okay, a lot more softer, a lot more flexible for using. So that was just with fabric conditioner that I used on that. So next day, finally got out in the line. Sorry, you know what it's like, you plan things to work, and all of a sudden the entire day takes over, and next day it's another day's gone. So that's mine out on the line now. Excuse my gnarly washing line. That should be, hopefully, it's 21 degrees here, so it should be dry by tomorrow. There's a bit of a breeze coming in through the back lane here as well, which is always handy. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll be ready for tomorrow's live chat. So I'll see you there about noon. Okay, take care of yourselves, and thank you very much for watching. If you hit that subscribe and the bell, and it'll let you know when I've uploaded a new video. At the moment I'm looking at maybe every 2 weeks, because next week I've got a Wirral pop-up show on Saturday the 20th. If you'd like to come and see me, will be at Hulme Hall at Port Sunlight on the Wirral. I'll put the flyer on the end of this, so just in case you're in the location and you want to come and visit me. And if you do come and visit me, if you ask me where is Iona, currently she's there, but at the stand she won't be. But if you ask me where is Iona,